Take a look at this dial. It represents the classical economic assumption of how work functions. The logic is entirely mechanical. Turn the wage up, and people choose to work more hours. Turn it down, and they rest. In this model, pay buys time, and time buys consumption. It is tidy, it is teachable, and for a large part of the workforce, it is entirely wrong. The error in that logic is that it assumes wages are the only thing workers care about. In reality, working conditions are not fringe benefits. They carry a specific, quantifiable weight that dictates where people decide to work. This chart maps out exactly how much those conditions are worth. In a massive study validating real job choices, researchers found that moving from the worst bundle of working conditions to the best was the equivalent of raising a worker's pay by 56%. Factors like autonomy, paid time off, and especially control over your own schedule equal better than half a paycheck, hiding completely off the books. Watch how this data fractures the labor pool. These amenities do not spread evenly across the economy. Good jobs bundle high pay with autonomy, flexibility, and meaning. Bad jobs strip all of those benefits away at the exact same time. Advantaged workers sort upward, hoarding both the money and the conditions, which forces the market to split into two distinct tiers. This split creates two extreme environments. At the bottom, the market targets physical survival. At the top, it targets identity and passion. In both cases, the structure of the market is designed to identify what a worker values most and use it to strip away their bargaining power. 2.5 centuries ago, Adam Smith made a promise about the bottom tier of that market. He argued that dangerous, filthy, and exhausting work must logically pay a premium. Otherwise, nobody would agree to do it. Economics calls this a compensating differential. Descend to where extreme physical labor actually happens: sewage maintenance, waste management, severe heat exposure, and Smith's promise inverts. The absolute worst jobs pay the least. John Stuart Mill identified the flaw in Smith's logic. The most revolting work falls to those who lack any alternative options. This chart illustrates the modern mechanism behind that trap, a concept called monopsony. When workers face massive hurdles to finding another job and have nowhere else to go, the employer holds all the power. Because the workers are trapped, management pushes wages down far below what the labor is actually worth. They strip away the pay, and they lose no one. The physical danger of the job stays. The financial reward vanishes. The market actively penalizes those who are too desperate to walk away. The market does not correct this markdown on its own. Economic security must be built by an external force: a wage floor, a strong union contract, or a guaranteed income. These are mechanisms that people construct together and then stand on. New York recently ran an experiment to see what happens when you install that floor beneath a highly volatile sector, the arts. They provided artists with a guaranteed, no-strings-attached income baseline for an extended period. The question was whether providing a baseline level of security would stop them from working. These data bars track exactly how the artists spent their time once the money arrived. They did not stop working. They traded survival hours for creative hours and reduced the time spent on unrelated jobs. They actively chose to trade baseline survival hours for creative hours. Cash was the floor, but passion set the direction. Below the floor, work is coercion. Above it, work becomes a choice. But choice introduces a brand new vulnerability. Above the floor, creative and care-based fields run on a model called psychic income. Workers in these sectors extract profound utility and joy directly from the act of creating or helping, rather than solely from what their paycheck buys. Employers know this. Management learns that they can weaponize that joy, converting it into what researchers call identity wages. They effectively charge workers for the privilege of keeping the identity the job confers. In the tech industry, video game developers regularly accept pay that sits drastically below the standard rate for enterprise software engineers. They take the markdown to retain their status as creators and insiders. The exact same lever operates in care work, where it manifests as a moral wage. The exploitation runs on the vocational awe of helping vulnerable people, extracting longer hours and intense physical strain because the worker believes the sacrifice is inherently noble. Society then legitimizes this extraction through a psychological mechanism known as the just world bias. When observers are shown an exploited worker, they automatically rewrite that person in their minds, concluding that the worker must simply love to suffer for their craft. The narrative protects the employer, but the human body absorbs the metabolic toll. Making the personal sacrifice for a craft is a choice. An employer extracting that sacrifice to pad a profit margin is a trap. The single dial of wages and hours fails to explain how the modern labor market actually functions. We have to discard it in favor of a two-axis framework. This visual framework isolates exactly what matters. The rigid vertical axis represents cash. It is a non-negotiable floor required to make rent and survive. Where missing, work is coercive. Now look at the horizontal axis. This line represents meaning, identity, and autonomy. Crucially, it only safely extends outward after the vertical floor is secured. For many, the portfolio career is a way to bridge this gap. By using a rigid survival job to manually construct the floor that policy does not yet provide, a worker protects their creative hours from the dedication trap. It is a rational structure for maintaining autonomy in a market that tries to extract it. Passion is incredibly real, and it is worth protecting. But it cannot substitute for economic survival. Without a hard baseline, your passion is nothing but a lever that someone else gets to pull. Society must guarantee the concrete floor first. Only then can we safely let people fly.